UFC Atlanta, Joaquin Buckley versus Kamaru Usman. This is the full card recap. We're going to go over the fights, go through one by one how I reacted live. I was at the fights actually, so, the experience was completely different than watching it, at home on my couch. So definitely, enjoyed it. Well, some of the fights, definitely the prelims. If you guys, tuned in, the main card was, well, we'll get into that, Well, later we'll go over the picks. We'll go through Makai's money making plays, and we'll probably, do a little bit of matchmaking here and there for some of these fighters as well. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get this video underway. All right, so starting off the card, we had Jamie Lynn Hort taking on Vanessa Demopoulos, and I have to say, these girls, definitely brought it. First fight of the night, they were getting to it. Jamie Lynn almost, got a finish a few times throughout this fight. But Vanessa, she's definitely tough. She definitely held her own. She was the one, and I'll say more engaging later in the fight. Making the fight a fight. Jamie Lynn, she did pick her apart from range at times, especially early in the fight. I believe she dropped her in the first round. Definitely, landed some really good shots. She busted Vanessa's eye a little bit too. But towards the second and third round, Jamie, she started to pull off the gas a little bit. I would say for her, for her shot selection, she wasn't really throwing, a jab or a front kick down the middle. Things were very open for her. Like straight shots were super open for her, but she did not take advantage of the reach advantage or the reach. She didn't take advantage of her reach to my liking, but ultimately she got the 30-27. It was a really entertaining fight, especially majority of the time women's fights don't tend to be super entertaining, but I will say the two that were on this card were pretty entertaining. Vanessa, like I said, definitely brought it. Shout out to her stepping up on short notice. I actually saw her after her fight. She was walking around the arena taking some pictures, and I gave her kudos. I didn't let her know, hey, I didn't pick you, but she definitely was very tough, and I salute her for stepping in short notice and taking this fight against a pretty well skilled Jamie Lynn Hort, who's got this huge size advantage against her. You got to remember, Vanessa's a straw weight, and she came in 125. She made the weight pretty good. She looked healthy. She looked like she has been training, and ultimately she came up short. But it was a really good fight. Definitely enjoyed it, and started the night off pretty good. Moving on, we had the comeback, Phil Rowe taking on Angelusa. Phil Rowe, man, I told you guys he was live for a dog. I should have picked him as lock of the week, but we'll get into the lock later. But yeah, Phil Rowe definitely stayed in it throughout the whole fight. Angelusa, early on was picking his spots. Definitely was getting the takedowns, securing Phil Rowe for majority of the rounds too. Definitely showed that his wrestling was superior. Striking, Phil couldn't really get much going early. I will say Ange was, more active attacking the lead leg with the low leg kicks. The jab was working a little bit for him. Phil started to find his range a little bit in the second round. And then the third round came, and, his corner must have told him, hey, you need to finish, because he was definitely down 2-0. Third round comes. He's defending the takedowns a lot better. He's getting more comfortable in the boxing range. Ange gasses out like I said he was going to, especially if you looked at that Reese McKee fight. And Phil Rowe goes to town, held him up. My uncle, I was watching the fights with my uncles. They were saying, he held him like Thanos was holding Hulk and just crushed him. That was a beautiful finish, beautiful comeback from Phil Rowe. And I actually have some training partners who trained with Phil Rowe not too long ago, so it's all, this MMA community is super, connected, and it was just cool to see Phil Rowe, come through and win. I didn't know beforehand that, I have some type of tie, not me personally, but, somebody that I know has a tie to Phil Rowe. So that was just cool to see. And I did pick him before I even knew this. So Phil Rowe, big underdog win here. They got the knockout in the third round, and yeah, super impressive. Where does he go from here? I'm not sure. He's had the Jake Matthews fight, the Neil Magny fight. Angelusa isn't like a top 20 type of guy, a contender, I would say. I don't think he's anywhere close to that. But I will say they will probably give him a fun fight. I can think of a maybe like a Lee Jingliang, or maybe they'll do something like that. I would watch that. Phil Rowe versus the Leech. That's pretty cool. I know the Leech is coming off of that knockout from Carlos Prates, but I think he should be good by now. And I know he definitely wants to get back in there. So Phil Rowe versus the Leech, set it up. I like that match. Next up, we had the other short notice replacement. Well, yeah, one of the short notice replacements: Cameron Smotherman versus Ricky Simone. Ricky does what he does. You know, he got the wrestling going early. Was able to secure Cameron for a majority of the fight. Um, the boxing was okay from both of these guys. Cameron, you know, he was a former lock of the week loser for me. And one of the things I took away from his fight with Seri City was he was very gun shy. And he was a little gun shy in this fight as well. As you can see, total strikes. He threw 104, landed 33. I mean, most of those came in the third round. I would say the first two rounds, Ricky was, you know, he was on him with the takedowns. If you look, he shot 10 takedown attempts, got three of them, but definitely secured Cameron Smotherman early. He had a few submission attempts too. I believe he had a arm triangle at one time, but Cameron was able to fight out of it. Late in the third round, you know, things got a little chippy. They both got in each other's faces, and I heard on the post fight conference that Ricky put him up against the cage. I believe it was in the third round. He was like, "Hey, you're under arrest," and Cameron Smotherman was like, "Hey, that's racist." So, but a little sense of humor there. But Ricky Simone, you know, ultimately walked away with 30-27, 29-28. Definitely looked like a 30-27 type of performance. I will say Cameron was turning it on late in the third round, was starting to, you know, defend the takedowns a lot better, was landing a few shots too. I will say Cameron looked like the fresher fighter towards the end of the fight. Probably had another round in him, and it wasn't looking too bright for Ricky, but ultimately he walks away with a unanimous decision, and it looked, you know, exactly how I thought it was. I did say Ricky Simone by unanimous decision. I didn't think he was gonna finish Cameron Smotherman. He almost, I wouldn't say he almost did, but you know, he tried. But Cameron's he's tough. I would definitely say he needs to work on. There's a few holes in his game. He got some work to do, but you know, he's dropped two in the UFC. He's 1-2 in the UFC now. He's definitely got to get, you know, win under his belt before they end up, you know, thinking about cutting him. But I don't think they'll cut him here after a short notice replacement. So he'll probably get one more shot, but he's gonna have to make the best of it. But yeah, Ricky Simone ultimately gets the unanimous decision. Next up, we had the Georgia boy, Cody Durden versus Jose Ochoa. This was a tough one. Um, yeah, this was a tough fight. Cody definitely, you know, brought the energy in an arena. Everybody was cheering for him. Georgia native, doesn't live too far from Atlanta, and, you know, ultimately gets knocked out in the second round. The guy I was sitting next to, after the first round, I was like, I think Cody's gonna get knocked out. And what do you know? 11 seconds into the second round, Jose Ochoa puts it on him and gets the finish. Jose, like I said, I thought he was gonna be able to squeak by, and he got the finish. Definitely was live, and I mean, Cody's tough. You know, the first round, he definitely was trading shots with Jose. He clipped him at one time. You know, had Jose stumbling back a little bit. Jose was just, I think he was just too quick. He even threatened with that front choke one time when, you know, Cody shot for a takedown. I knew it was going to be a high action, high pace fight. You know, majority of the time, the flyweights definitely bring it. And Jose Ochoa and Cody Durden definitely did. So shout out to these guys for putting on a performance. And Jose Ochoa getting his very first UFC win. It was just, you know, very impressive. Cool fight from both of these guys. You know, the prelims definitely had it going on compared to the main card. So shout out to Jose Ochoa and Cody Durden again. Next up, we had the highlight of the night, Malcolm Walla, the Machine Wellmaker, with the beautiful knockout over Chris Mutino. Picture perfect, bro. He does it again. Counter right hook. Mutino face first into the canvas. Sean O'Malley was not able to do this, but Malcolm Wellmaker was. And I told you guys since the Simon fight, when this fight was announced, it was going to happen. Both times I told you, knockout, first round. Chris Mutino's a dog. You know, he definitely was trying to tie up with Malcolm, but Malcolm's too slick, bro. The footwork, the speed, the timing, the precision. I told you this already. and the knockout was just a thing of beauty. I got the shirt on again, had to represent, in the State Farm Arena. Everybody kept asking me, "Yo, where'd you get that shirt? Where'd you know him?" Da da da. Shout out Malcolm Wellmaker doing what he does best, man. Another 50K to add to his name. And this dude, he's rising to the top, man. He has, the sky is the limit for him. And, I'm excited to see what comes next. This dude is working hard. Every day he's in the gym just working hard. So shout out to Chris, stepping in on short notice. But yeah, face first into the canvas, just like I said it was. And check right hook. It's just perfect timing. Perfect timing. Shout out to Wellmaker, man. Next up, we had the Unction, the Unk Scrap. I will admit, watching this fight live, I was on my phone. This was not an entertaining fight at all. Michael Chiesa decided to strike. Not really sure why. I believe those 2 takedown attempts came in the 3rd round because I didn't see any in the first two rounds that I was watching. And I mean, what could you really say about this fight? 30-27. I mean, I guess Chiesa was the more aggressive fighter, I guess. But yeah, don't really have much to say about this fight. In the arena, definitely it was corny, it was whack. This was a waste of a prelim spot, in my opinion. What was the point of this fight, honestly? To see who was going to retire? I don't know if Court retired. He definitely didn't get a interview or anything like that. So yeah. Next up, we had the DQ. Definitely should have been a DQ. Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellato ends in a up kick, no contest. I will say, for a majority of the fight, Bellato was chasing Paul Craig, not throwing much, getting countered with, like side kicks to the body. Paul Craig was throwing some really good body kicks. Definitely started to agitate Bellato. I will say towards the end of the 1st round, Bellato was dropping his hands a lot more. Definitely was concerned with that body kick. And then they tie up. Bellato takes him down. I believe he goes for, some ground and pound, breaks contact, throws a kick to the leg, and then tries to enter the guard again of Paul Craig with a few seconds left. And Paul Craig throws an up kick. First one was clean. The second one, Rodolfo was down, and Bellato goes flying back. There's a little controversy because he, once he got hit, he looked to the ref like, "Yo, you gonna let him do that?" And then he was out and started, tweaking a little bit. It was definitely weird in the arena. I thought it was going to be a DQ because it was a blatant up kick by Paul Craig when the opponent was down, but ultimately it got called a no contest. So I don't know if the UFC is going to book this fight again. I don't know if Paul Craig is going to get another fight. This was the last fight on his contract. Do they give him another one because this is a no contest? I don't think so. I think they're going to end up just cutting Paul Craig. And if Rodolfo Bellato was actually out, he might need a little bit of time before we see him again. So it was definitely weird. Not a good way to end, the prelims. Definitely went out on a awkward type of note. But we move, and I guess this fight is a push for the picks. Opening up the main card, if you guys haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We had another snoozer, Alonzo Menifield versus Umar Sy. There really was no moments of adversity in this fight. Umar, he was pretty clean defensively, I'll say, but he was not, getting his offense going. He threw 2 shots max at a time. Second round, he's on one single takedown attempt for 4 minutes. Struggled to get it, got Alonzo down, and Alonzo gets right back up. This fight was absolutely atrocious. 3rd round, Umar, it opens up throwing a couple big strikes. He's avoiding Alonzo's, the bomb that he has. It was a really weird fight, but they gave it to Alonzo. I guess he was the aggressor in the matchup. I guess defending that takedown definitely gave him some points, I guess. Umar definitely struggled to take down Alonzo Menifield. Alonzo's a pretty strong 205er, but the way Umar Sy looked at the weigh-ins, when they were in the octagon, he looked much larger. I thought he would be able to get Alonzo down, but Hey, Alonzo beats me once again. Big underdog too, big upset. Gives Umar Sy his very first loss ever. And I don't know, you get another, undefeated fighter to lose their O in 2025. So it's been a common theme. And Umar C definitely didn't do anything to help his case. So Alonzo Minifield, unanimous decision. It is what it is. Atomic Minifield moves on. Next up, we had the other undefeated fighter. Well, one of the three undefeated fighters, Mansour Abdul Malik versus Cody Brundage, which almost got ended in a disqualification, but luckily, third round, they were over the time necessary for scoring, and Mansour gets the unanimous decision. There was a headbutt, which is what caused, the technical decision, I'll call it, being called. Mansour and Cody, they were trading big shots towards in the third round. Cody definitely, he was throwing them things, but Mansour was just a little bit more clean and clipped Cody with, I believe it was a right hook. He goes to close the distance, and I believe he threw like a knee to the body, but he also cracked Cody. It was like a headbutt. Cody goes down, covers up, and Mansour, unloads on him, finishes the fight. Everyone in the arena believed it was the knockout, but we look at the replay, and you can see the headbutt clearly. Cody, this is the third, fourth time he's looked for a way out. He's got the DQ or no contest over Abdullah Razak. What other fight was it? uh, come on, ESPN. Yeah, Abdul, and then there was another fight here. Wasn't the Marquez fight? The Malkoon DQ, and there's one more I can't remember. But yeah, the king of DQ victories, Cody Brundage, definitely looked for a way out in this one. I mean, I'm not gonna say he wasn't hurt or anything. Headbutt clearly dropped him, but we were over the time allotted, and Mansour Abdul Malik was winning the entire fight. Definitely won majority of the exchanges. Was a more active striker. Was pushing Cody Brundage back majority of the fight, and was able to get his offense flowing with not much resistance coming back. There was a moment in the first round where Cody did stick Malik with I believe it was like an overhand right, and I mean it stung him, but Mansour was able to walk through it and keep the pressure going, and ultimately won the fight. So shout out to Mansour Abdul Malik weathering the storm and beating the disqualification. Next up, we had the lock of the week, Cody Garbrandt versus Raoni Barcelos. I thought this fight would go to a split decision, honestly. I thought Cody won round 1 and 2. Round 1, he dropped Raoni. Second round, I know, was it Raoni took him down? No, Raoni clipped him at the end of the round. And I didn't feel as though that was enough to win the round. I felt like Cody was winning the exchanges in the second round. He was on his bicycle a little bit, but he was also countering, the takedown attempts, the tie ups from Rowney. I felt like he was more active in that second round. Third round, got a little chippy. Rowney was able to get him down, secured him for a little bit. Cody did get back up to his feet. Well, actually, he was threatened with a choke. Rowney jumped on his neck a little bit. Cody was able to fight out of it, try to reverse position. They got back to their feet. Cody didn't land anything significant in that third round to ultimately, pull the judges in his favor. So I can understand a 29-28 Barcelos, but I just thought it would be a split decision. I thought Cody did enough in the first round and in the second round. I didn't think that flash knockdown, with 5 seconds left in the second round was enough to steal the round. But lock of the week, we go down to 8-5. No, 8-6. Excuse me. It is what it is, though. We move. We were never scared to take an underdog. We always got the dog in us. So we move on. Next week is a new week. That's all you got to look forward to. Next up, we got Edmund Shabazian versus Andre Petroski. This fight was pretty boring. Edmund did have Petroski hurt a number of times in this fight, and he just never pressed on the gas. There was a moment where I believe Edmund broke Petroski's wrist or his arm, and Petroski clearly showed that he was hurt, and Edmund just did not, jump on the gas. It wasn't a third round. He had the opportunity to finish him, I want to say at least 2 to 3 times. But we get a Shabazian decision. Yeah, live, it definitely was not enjoyable. First 2 rounds, Edmund did land, some pretty clean strikes. Got taken down one time, I believe, in the second round, but popped right back up to his feet. Same thing in the third round. Was able to defend majority of the takedown attempts from Andre. Stayed at range, used the kickboxing, and won the fight. What more could you ask for him? Who do I match up Edmund with? That's a good question. I don't think he's headed towards the rankings just yet. Excuse me, with a win over Petroski. Maybe. I'm not sure where I would match up Shabazian. I feel like you could do Petroski versus Brundage, though. I feel like that's an easy fight to book. Wrestler, grappler versus wrestler, brawler. I think that's a pretty simple fight to book. I feel as though Petrosi's definitely going to need some time out with that broken wrist or broken forearm, whatever it is. So, I don't know. Maybe we see that fight early next year or like February of 26. It is what it is. We move, though. Edmund Shabazian walks away with the victory. Next up, we got Rose Namajunas versus Miranda Maverick. I gotta say, 30-27 was absolutely outrageous. I definitely thought it would be a split decision. I feel as though Miranda definitely won rounds 1 and 2. Second round, as you guys saw, Rose did take her down, was controlling for some time, but Miranda ultimately reversed the submission attempt from Rose, threatened with her own arm triangle, and landed some shots towards the end of the round. The striking was pretty even. Rose didn't really have a clear advantage up until the third round, where she clipped Miranda with that with the counter left hook, knocked her down, and I think Miranda rolled her ankle or something, because at the end of the fight, she was limping on it. I think it was on that shot that she did. Rose jumps on top of her, landed some ground and pound. Miranda was, she was still in there though. Definitely wasn't out of it. Was able to, try to wrestle up, reverse the position a few times. They both just rolling. Rose, ultimately stays on top. Miranda reverses again. She's doing a little bit of work, but it was just a little too late. And Rose Namajunas gets the unanimous decision. I feel as though the judges were just trying to get the night over with. 30-27, I can't agree. I definitely thought Miranda won. Like I said, rounds 1 and 2. I thought it would be a split decision. But the building was going for Rose. I was the only Miranda Maverick believer. And hey, sometimes I'm cool with being on the opposite side, But Rose Namajunas gets it done. And hopefully we get the Alexa Grasso fight next. Now to the main event of the evening. If you guys haven't, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. The Nigerian Nightmare is back. I have to give Kamaru Usman the absolute most respect in the world. I counted him out, and he definitely showed me that I need to shut my ass up. He even told everybody, "Oh, my knees, my knees, my knees." Hey, man, his knees didn't look like it was bothering him not one bit. He was on Buckley from start to finish. Buckley looked like he did not know how to defend a takedown up until the 5th round. I don't know where that, miraculously came from, but I know Usman does have great control, and He was controlling Buckley from start to finish, landed some beautiful ground and pound, sliced Buckley's eye open. He was even hanging with him on the strike or on the feet. Buckley, a lot of his shots are wide hooks, wide, lunging shots. He did utilize a little bit of some karate or taekwondo later in the fight, definitely switched his stance. But nothing went straight down the pipe. I feel as though that would have, affected Usman a lot more. He was attacking the legs late. He only threw 3 leg kicks. Definitely should have been on that earlier. Usman was throwing some body kicks. It was pretty impressive to see him doing that. He's never been a huge kicker, you know what I'm saying? But he definitely utilized some in this fight. The control time, bro, it was like, look at it. It's 12:57. So damn near half of the fight, he controlled Joaquin Buckley. This was a very impressive win from Kamaru Usman to, come back from that 3-fight skid, the head kick against Leon, losing the decision against Leon, and then a very close, very tough fight with Hamzat. He's still showing that he's still here, and he, in fact, is the boogeyman of 170. I know he's calling for a title shot, but not over. I'm not gonna say he gets the immediate title shot. I feel as though Sean Brady definitely has deserved it. Shavkat's gonna have to fight. So that brings me to Kamaru Usman versus Shavkat, because I feel as though Sean Brady said out of his mouth that he's gonna be fighting Ian Gary. So you do Kamaru versus Shavkat, and that's definitely who is. See, 170 is jam packed because Sean. If Sean beats Ian, he's got the right, to 170. If Kamaru beats Shavkat, he's got a right for the title. Then you got who else is thrown in there? I feel as though Bilal could be an option for Kamaru. They got a little bit of beef going on. Anyway, that's an easy fight to make, and I feel as though a lot of people would like to watch that too. I don't know if Usman. I don't think Usman is gonna get a title shot though. Usman versus Bilal or Usman versus Shavkat is definitely the fight to make. If Sean Brady is in fact fighting Ian Gary, those are the 2 fights that I want to see. For Buckley, do we do Buckley versus Holland too? Do we do Buckley versus? Let's look at 170. Let's look at 170. Middleweight, welterweight. Buckley turned down the fight against Leon already. I don't think they're going to book that. Michael Morales, no. You could do Buckley versus Jeff Neal. Yeah, you could do Buckley versus Jeff Neal. Or if Sean's not fighting Ian, then you could do Buckley versus Ian. Cuck versus Buck, easy fight night headliner. Or even on a pay-per-view card. And then maybe they do Sean versus Shavkat, Bilal versus Kamaru. 170, man, is heating up. And with, Kamaru Usman back in there, things are just super interesting, man. Super, super interesting. Shout out to the Nigerian Nightmare for absolutely proving everybody wrong that he is definitely still here. And he didn't look to miss, one step at all. Shout out to Kamaru Usman. Now, let's move to my favorite section, your favorite section, Makai's Money Making Plays. Or, excuse me. We need to review the picks. So, let me bring this back up. Let's bring this back up real quick. Okay, so we'll start with the first fight. We won with Horth. We won with Rowe. We won with Ricky. We won with Ochoa. Won with Malcolm. Won with Chiesa. And we get the push. So what is that? 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 0 and 1. Then we lose with Sai, 6, 1 and 1. Win with Mansoor 7-1-1. Lose with the Lock and Cody 7-2-1. Win with Edmund 8-2-1. Lose with Miranda 8-3-1. And then we lose with Buckley. So 8-4-1 on the night. Not bad, but definitely have seen better. But yeah, let's move to Makai's money making plays. So we hit on one play, the over 2.5 in Rose versus Maverick, over 2.5 worth, Jalen Horth versus Vanessa and Roll money line plus 215 at cashes. Wellmaker, Bellato, KO. Bellato got pushed, and then Umar C was unable to get the finish at all. Actually ended up losing. Ochoa money line, Chiesa did not wrestle at all, and Edmund ended up winning for plus 602. That doesn't cash. And then we play Chiesa sub, Buckley KO, and the over 1.5. The over 1.5 Durden versus Ochoa, and that play ultimately does not come through. So we hit on one. It is what it is. Next week is a new week, and we got opportunity to make up for our losses. So I'm looking forward to UFC Baku, Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree. That's a really good fight card. Looking forward to giving you guys the predictions on that too. We'll be working on that. First thing tomorrow is actually 5 a.m. right now. I just got home. Long night. Was hanging out with Malcolm at the Fighter Hotel. It was pretty cool. Saw Wonder Boy there. Saw Umar C. Saw Robbie Lawler. Saw Ryoni Barcelos. Saw Eric Anders. It was pretty cool. Hung out, chilled with the team. It was pretty cool. But that is it for UFC Atlanta. Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. I definitely enjoyed the card. I'll say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give it a 7. A lot of the fights, didn't really deliver, but we had Malcolm, we had Kamaru, we had Jose Ochoa, we had Phil Rowe with the ultimate comeback. The ladies definitely showed up. Rose, Miranda, Jamie, Vanessa definitely showed up. So the card was solid, other than a few fights. But thank you guys for tuning in. I will catch you for the next one. UFC Baku, Hill versus Roundtree. So make sure you guys tune into the prediction show for that. You're not going to want to miss it. See you later.